Hello Chelsea fan channel, we have a new regular feature for you. It's a Chelsea youth column. We have got Ali Maxwell who is going to give us all the lowdown on the youth. Ali, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear, Rory.
Hi Ali. Ali, first things first, Sporting Lisbon. It was meant to be a youth day. We were shortchanged really, weren't we?
Yeah, I think we were, mate. I think that Mourinho dropped the ball a bit, calling it the Academy Day. I think that probably wasn't a smart move. He also spoke about, very glowingly about Ruben Loftus-Cheek in that press conference, which I thought was a nice touch. But I think that label was not very smart. I also think that, in general, it is hard to say that he's giving enough opportunities to these youth players. We read about them so much and we watch all these amazing goals that they score for the youth teams. We're top of the league in the under-21s. We're top of the league in the under-18s. We hear these days through social media so much about these guys. And it can be very frustrating for those who want to see the talent in the first team. It can be very frustrating that they aren't getting their chance in a sense. But I have to say as well, and I think this needs to be made quite clear, is that one thing we do know about Mourinho, and, thank God we have him. I think everyone's agreed with that. He's a very pragmatic manager, and most of all, he's a winner. And what that means is he's not necessarily a footballing romantic, as the press are very keen to point out when we win games without necessarily scoring 4 goals. And he wants to win every game. Now, clearly, the best way to do that is to play the first team players that we have. We go 2 or 3 deep at every position on the pitch with top level players. These guys are almost to a man, you'd say. Every Chelsea first team player is in the top 250, let's guess 250 players in the world, maybe 300. And there aren't many of those players in the world. The youth team players, the plan is that they'll get there. But that takes a lot of time and it takes them, if they're going to play for the first team, they're probably going to make mistakes. Now, that will impact on the week-by-week results, the week-by-week performances. And so if you are a fan who is, really desperate to see all these guys play, it is worth realising that, especially how short-term and impatient the footballing world is now, fans, chairman, everything, as a manager especially, you're not necessarily going to want to take those risks because, it's such a tricky balance. Of course, we want to see these youngsters. At the same time, we've got one of the best squads in the world. These players are all fit. We so rarely have injury problems. And that's another point to make. Januzaj and Bellerin for Arsenal, all these guys, they've either come in the last few years for the other big teams due to injuries. You've got Pozzo at the moment because of Aguero and Dzeko's injuries. But we don't ever really get those injuries. And if we do, it's in positions where we've got top-level backup.
Yeah.
I think that does need to be bared in mind.
I see. So that's an interesting one, Ali. Would you then... So the game against Sporting Lisbon, we paid our money. I paid 35 quid to go and watch that match. I would sort of demand that the team play the strongest team in order to win. Do you think that we should potentially sacrifice the odd point here and there, even 3 points, even a place in the table to see these kids, or do you think that it's only acceptable if victory can be guaranteed?
I'm not entirely sure of what my own opinion is, and that's what makes it so tricky. As I said, on the one hand, I'm so excited by these guys. I've seen a couple of the youth team games in person, and most of these guys are clearly head and shoulders above their equivalent age groups at the moment. Right. So I really, really want to see them. I absolutely do. But I also know how annoyed I get if Chelsea drop points against a team we don't need to drop points against.
Exactly.
And so it is really tricky. And if you're Mourinho, I can completely understand why he's very sort of nervous. He's never nervous, but why he's maybe a little bit wary of just sticking him in, because, as I said, they're not going to be at the top level. And we watched them play. Loftus-Cheek was great for 15 minutes against Sporting. He was lovely. Yeah. But that was a very nice game for him to come on for.
It was a bit of an anticlimax, that one, wasn't it?
It was a bit, but he did a couple of nice passes, and I was telling all my mates how he was the next big thing. I do believe that, but I also think there's an aspect to it which is I'm probably looking through slightly tinted glasses here, because youth players get people so excited.
Too right. So next best thing you just mentioned there, Have you got your eye on anyone? I'm hearing good things about Islam Feruz.
Yeah, well, Feruz is a funny one. Everyone's been hearing great things about Islam Feruz for years and years, ever since he was in the Celtic youth team, since he was about 10.
Yeah.
I think we got him about 3 years ago when he was, I think, 15, 16. And he was pretty much unstoppable for a couple of years between sort of 2011, 2013, when he was playing for our under 18s. We won a lot of stuff. He was joint top scorer in the Next Gen series. That was the sort of Youth Champions League that we lost in the final to Villa.
Oh, of course.
And he scored a lot of goals. He really, really did. Then he became 19 and so ineligible to play for that under 18 team. And because the under 21 league that is in existence at the moment in England doesn't have very many games, you need to look at Lewis Baker, who's only played a handful of games this season because they just don't play very often. That's why we send so many of these 18 to 21-year-olds out on loan. Right. So with Feruz in the summer, he turns up, there's a picture of him in the training kit of this Russian team called Krylia Sovetov. And he's in their training kit, shaking hands with the coach, looks like a done deal, probably was a done deal. And then about 2 or 3 days later, he's back in London saying that he didn't want to be in Russia and he's come back.
Really?
Yeah, that's what happened.
God.
Okay, so fast forward a couple of weeks, and then we do send him out on loan again on transfer deadline day. We send him to Greece. We send him to Crete, a team in Crete called OFI Crete. Again, like, these two decisions still sort of baffle me. There's talk that it might be down to his agent and who he knows in the world, but both sort of moves for a young guy, who came over, who's already done one big move in his life, moving from Somalia to Scotland when he was really young. It was a bit odd. Now he's barely playing for Crete. I'm not even sure if he's played in the last month. And according to the brilliant Chelsea youth Twitter account, in his weekly loan report, Feruz didn't play on the weekend. He hasn't played recently. So it's all very weird at the moment, to be honest, mate. There was so much excitement surrounding him.
Oh, well, hopefully it will come back. On to another loan move that really hasn't worked. And now this one's got my back up a bit. Nathan Chalobah. What's Sean Dyche playing at? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is a bit ridiculous. I mean, we've all seen this guy just dominate the reserve and youth teams at Chelsea, captaining all the teams, playing for England unders. He did really well in the Championship. He definitely served his time in the Championship. I think he played for 3 different clubs there. He's gone to Burnley and it seemed absolutely perfect. You know, this was a team where we thought he was about the right level for. I still think he is the right level for. But what this shows is that, the loan system, which serves us pretty well, I think, in general, the trickiest thing about it is that when you hand a player out on loan, you give away control of his development. And so, you can't control the fact that Sean Dyche is so immovable and unimaginative with his rotation, with his team selection, even with his substitutions. You can't control the fact that Burnley they're a very poor Premier League team in the heart of a relegation battle. And you can't control the fact that, every minute of every game for them is a battle. And this guy in charge, he doesn't seem ready to test this youngster.
It's a real shame, isn't it?
It is a real shame. This guy could be a future England international, and if he does end up playing for England one day, I think Sean Dyche will feel like a very, very foolish man.
If he doesn't already.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? Who should we be keeping an eye on? Who have you got in mind to talk to us about, Ali?
Well, I mean, really, where do we start? I started thinking about names that we could talk about, and I got to about 10 and realised that I should probably stop. Obviously, we've got youngsters in and around the first team. That's basically Kurt Zuma, really. And then the guys who are still at the club, who could still play this season, who are not out on loan. You've got Christensen, you've got Baker, who I absolutely love. I'd love to talk more about Lewis Baker.
Well, maybe we'll do that. That could be the one. We'll get you on next week and we'll get the Lewis Baker chat, because I really want to hear a lot about him. That'd
be great. I reckon for next week, mate, how about Baker and Jeremy Boga, who's been absolutely lighting it up as well.
Sounds fantastic. I really look forward to that.
Cheers.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Ali. Right, hope you enjoyed that. Make sure that you click subscribe. It's there now. Comment, like us, follow us on Twitter. Thank you very much for watching. That's from me and Ali. Cheers.